used in this video was brought to you by Noir, maker of the most innovative, most accurate, and most effective bullets and ammunition in the industry.
As we all know, I've stated time and time again in numerous videos, I have the hands of a hobbit.
I'm going on an adventure!
You see, my fingers, my hands, they're smaller. Whatever. But, you see, Walther loves me. They love me so much that they sent me a gun that fits my hobbit hands. The Walther PDP F-Series. Now, this gun also incites other insecurities from the standpoint that this gun is actually geared towards women, which kind of makes me feel a certain type of way, considering I actually like the way this gun feels. So I did a video on the full-size Walther PDP some time ago, and I ranted and raved about how much I love that gun and how ergonomic the actual gun is. So even though I have small hands, generally speaking, I tend to like larger frame guns sometimes. And so when they sent me this gun, I thought to myself, why are they sending me another PDP? And then I looked at it and I realized it actually does look a little bit different. Well, notwithstanding this magazine. This comes from the Q5. I just wanted more rounds. This is not the magazine that comes with it. But I noticed it looked a little bit different. And where it looked different was in this grip area. It's a lot slimmer circumference-wise. It also has a shorter length of pull between this back strap and the trigger. And I picked it up and I put it in my hand and I was like, yo, this gun feels really good. And keep in mind, this is coming from me doing a video about the full-size PDP, raving how awesome the ergonomics on that are. So the fact that they were able to come out with this gun, the F-Series of the PDP, which I'm convinced stands for female, says a lot. So let's talk about what's different. I kind of mentioned it at the beginning of this video. The biggest difference on this gun is going to be this grip and the length of pull. So between here and the distance of the trigger is smaller or shorter, because some people with smaller hands have a hard time pulling a trigger if the trigger's sitting out here and they can't get a good proper index on the trigger whenever it's too far out and there's too much of a distance between the actual trigger and the back strap. A lot of women have smaller hands, so therefore it's better for them to have something a little bit shorter. On top of that, the circumference of the gun is a lot slimmer too. And it's immediately noticeable as soon as you pick it up. There's also some visual differences as well. As you hear, the texturing on the gun visually is a little bit different from the regular PDP. However, the actual grip texture in and of itself is pretty much the same, but at least here, it's pretty much straight with no grooves, and where on the PDP you do have some indentation for fingers, you don't have that here on the F-Series. So I did all that talking about, keep talking about the PDP, the original and all that. So these are the two side by side. And as you can look, if you look at the grip, there is a difference there. It's noticeable once I point it out.
Have you ever thought about making a living in the firearm industry? If you enjoy gun repairs, ballistics, and learning about firearms, Sonoran Desert Institute online courses might just be a good fit for you. To find out more about them, visit www.sdi.edu today.
So let's do some shooting. All right, let's see. So one of the things they did different, let's talk this trigger. The trigger on this gun is a little different than the PDP. And I have to say that I do notice from a length of pull standpoint, I do notice that it does feel a little bit better, especially considering, again, my hobbit's hands. But I'll be honest with you, I never really had a problem with length of pull on other firearms. Maybe some double action, single HKs, some of the bigger HKs, maybe those. But generally speaking, the previous PDP, I didn't have any issues. But there are people with a lot smaller hands than me who will find the distance incredibly refreshing. So it feels more natural. You get your finger placement on the gun. And of course, in typical fashion, you have your insanely good Walther trigger. You get this beautiful, sweet uptake, break, and then you get this awesome reset. It's really honestly hard to compete with Walther's stock triggers. They're one of the few guns where you genuinely do have no desire to change the trigger out. And that's one thing I love about Walthers. And I honestly just love the PDP platform as a whole. And so another thing they did was if you see here, the checkering on the actual slide, which was already really good to me before because they're incredibly deep and they're easy to grip, incredibly easy to grip. But what they did is they kind of rounded it off a little bit so that it makes it a little bit more smooth for those who conceal carry. So if you're going to conceal carry this gun, look, honestly, I think it's a little bit much ado about nothing. It's better. I mean, I'd rather have it than not. But if you compare the regular PDP to this PDP, there are a lot more sharp lines on the actual slide of the regular PDP versus the F-Series. I didn't even really notice it until I put the guns side by side, and then that's when it actually stood out to me. So, another thing on this gun is, one of the differences is basically the slide. The slide tension is, they say 20% softer. So that means that it's a lot easier for me to rack the slide. So I know that's one of the biggest problems that a lot of women tend to have whenever they shoot a firearm or whenever they get a certain gun, especially striker fired guns, is their ability to rack the slide. Honestly, I don't have any of those problems, but I do notice that it is a lot easier for me to rack the slide on this gun than on the traditional PDP. So let's talk about the actual shooting dynamics. I don't want to say it, but I do feel like I have a little bit more control with the F-Series than I would with the traditional PDP. But I can't deny the fact that the gun, let's see, actually does point a little bit nicer for me. And I think a lot of it has to do, again, with the change in the grip angle on this particular F-Series of PDPs. It's a little, it's straight. It's not as aggressive. It doesn't have as an aggressive angle as you would get on the regular PDP. And so what that does, it just, the gun just naturally lines up with my eyes really naturally. And I can't deny it as much as I want to, because I want to be able to say, I prefer the man gun because it's the man gun, but I got hobbied hands. I mean, I guess I got to take that up with God. There we go. I mean, the PDP is just a blast to shoot. Now, other than those differences, everything else is pretty much the same. You get the same 15 rounds in the gun as you get with the normal PDP. The same magazine release, which I actually really like because it's incredibly positive, but it's also ambidextrous as well. This entire gun is ambidextrous, which is a plus. You still get the rail, you still get your mounting plate for your red dot optics. You also get your adjustable rear sights. I mean, everything else is pretty much PDP all the way through and through, except for these minor incremental changes with respect to the grip to make it more palatable or usable to women. And we gotta be honest, for the longest time, no one really cared about making guns for women. Our idea of making guns for women was make the gun pink, loud colors, and make it really small, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that was it. Now we're starting to get companies like Walther who are making guns literally designed for women. And then you get people like me who are men who have, you know, hobbit-sized hands, who actually like them as well. So even though this gun is marketed towards women, I have to be honest, any guy that has a medium to small size hand will pick this gun up and it'll feel just fine. I think they actually would really enjoy it, maybe enjoy it even more than a regular PDP. So I have to take some gripes with Walther from the standpoint of like, stop saying this for women, or you made it for women, because it's making people like me feel bad. Because I actually really like this gun in terms of the way it feels. Now, if I'm gonna be honest, if I had to pick and choose between the PDP, the regular PDP, and the F-Series, I'm gonna be more inclined to pick this one. And then part of that reason is because of the smaller grip. It just gives it a smaller footprint from a concealed carry standpoint, and that's what this gun is geared towards. It's a concealed carry gun. And so from that perspective, it just makes us, considering I can shoot the gun well with no problem, why wouldn't I? Like, yeah, it says F-Series on it, but I mean, it's kind of like Cologne. You know, like nowadays, every cologne is unisex. You go to the mall and it's like, so is this for men or for women? They're like, oh, it's unisex. Some of them aren't. This isn't really a female gun. So Walther's a liar. It's not for women. It's just for people with not massive size hands. I got small ears too. Oh, speaking of ears, as you can see, I'm running the new Colion Noir edition, AKT1 Ear Pro. Available right now, shop.mrcolionnoir.com. Shameless plug. But that's neither here nor there. PDP is just an awesome gun, man. It just is. My favorite is the full size. The full size is almost godly. But this compact size, this F-Series, 15 rounds, beautiful grip, very ergonomic. You get all the features that you could possibly want in a firearm. I mean, you can't really beat that. And if I'm gonna be honest, if you can swing it, if you put the Q5 match magazines, it just looks gorgeous. There you go, right there. What is it? We got, what, 18 rounds right there. That's just sexy. There you have it.
Guns aren't political. That's why I need your help getting this message to spread on YouTube by clicking the thumbs up button, leaving a comment to let me know what you think of the video, then subscribing to the channel. But most importantly, click that bell symbol. For products featured in this video, click the links in the description.